Hello, here we are. Today, I'm doing something very unusual. This is not normally what I do. Um, but a couple months ago, met a really special lady. Her name is Carrie, Carrie J. She is an attorney. I didn't know that when I met her. I found out while we were protesting. She lives in Pennsylvania, but she was visiting family in Sarasota. So she drove all the way from Sarasota to Clearwater to protest with me on a Wednesday night. And it was so much fun. So we jammed really nicely together. You know, there's peanut butter and there's jam and it goes together so nicely. And it was right before the weekend when a whole bunch of different ex-Scientology YouTubers came to Clearwater to visit. So she got to come Saturday, or was it Friday night? Whichever night the meet and greet was, she got to come. So that was fun. I'm glad she got to meet some people too. But without further delay, welcome Carrie J.
Hi.
Hello, Carrie. How are you
Lauri.
today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for bringing this information to me so we can discuss it with a serious attitude.
Yes, I will be very lawyerly right now.
Okay, so this is a very serious topic, actually. I'm sure we will get to some fun and games later.
Yes.
But before we start, tell me a little bit about your background.
So I've been a lawyer here in Pennsylvania for over 20 years. I'm sorry, I'm just going to try to look at the camera. I've done prosecution, I've done some criminal defense, and primarily I do child welfare law here in Pennsylvania. And I've been doing that in my home area for about the last 10 years. So child abuse is something that's very much in my wheelhouse, something I care a lot about, helping kids, not just who are coming into the system, but also kids who are exiting the system. So there's a lot of need that I didn't know about until I got involved in that area of law. But that's kind of what drew me into SPTV, was the aspect of protesting Scientology because of the abuse, especially the child abuse. So,
and I'm going to bet child advocacy is not the highest paying tier in the world of attorneying.
It is not, especially if you're in a small county in Pennsylvania. Everyone knows Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and those are large areas. But most of Pennsylvania is, rural farmland type of communities, including the one that I grew up in. That's where I'm living now, my hometown. But that's okay. I drive a Chevy Cruze and I'm happy with it because I feel passionate about my job and I really enjoy it.
And that says a lot about you as a person because you're not chasing the money. You're chasing what your heart is telling you to do. So props to you.
Thanks.
Okay, so you did a video couple 3 weeks back highlighting human trafficking law specifically in the state of Florida. And
yes.
I bet I know why you chose Florida.
I don't know. Why do you think, Lauri?
Why? Could it have anything to do with the international mecca of the cult of Scientology being headquartered in Clearwater, Florida?
It kind of did. I had heard so many stories, Serge Del Mar's story and Miriam Francis' story. I mean, so many stories. And as an attorney, I start at the beginning. I don't assume that I know what the definition of human trafficking in the state of Florida is. I'm going to look at it and see if my thinking is in line with what's on the books. And when I looked at the statute, there was so much to it and there was a lot of teeth to it. And I thought, you know what, people in the SPTV community, whether you're an under the radar Scientologist or you're an adult child victim of something that happened, let's get that information out and part of the conversation because there, I think, is a lot of potential here in terms of holding Scientology accountable for its abuses.
Yeah. And I was going to say something, but this comment made me lose my mind because while we're in our introductory stage, let's let everybody know this is Carrie's channel at Pity_Princess because she has a Princess Pity at her house.
Yes.
And we went on a crusade a few days ago. She was at 16 subs and we put out the word, please subscribe so Carrie can go live on her channel as well. and she was able to get to close to 150 or around 150 subs. It's too small for me to see. Sorry.
Yeah.
But please do show her support. She's only got a couple of videos up yet, but we're going to work on that with her. Because remember what happened to my lawyer friend, Zach? Well, guess what? This is my lawyer friend, Carrie.
I'm everyone's lawyer friend.
SP passionate.
Yes.
Let's say that.
Yeah.
So of this video that you did, you sent me some slides and you wanted to talk specifically about a couple of those.
Yes.
And Fat Grammy asked too. See, that's 2 people that hopefully will subscribe to you. We're on 10. We got to scroll back to, I can scroll right here in StreamYard. That's nice. I thought I was going to have to go to another screen. So this is the actual meat of what you think fits with what we see going on in Clearwater. Am I right?
Yes, I actually copy and pasted straight from, I put the website for the homepage at the beginning of the presentation because it's publicly available. I haven't verified it, but I would imagine all 50 states have a homepage for the legislature where you can navigate thank you, the statutes for yourself and kind of do a search. So I copied and pasted directly from the statute into the Google Slides, the language of the statute. So this is it. This comes straight from the statute. You don't have to take my word for it. Go and see for yourself.
And that's right. And any statutes from any state is available if you just search the internet. And I don't know if anybody saw this, but I know Free Xenu Project, one of the days he was protesting in Chicago, one of the cops there was trying to tell him he couldn't do something, whatever it was he was doing. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right to me. So in a matter of about 3 or 4 minutes, I pulled up Chicago's city ordinances. So you have federal law. Then underneath that, you have state law. Mm-hmm. Then you have county ordinances. I think ordinances.
Some counties have ordinances
here in Hillsborough County, where I live. And then under that, you have city. Mm-hmm. So it's it's like a family tree for any genealogist. It just starts and it spreads out. Yeah. So I looked at Chicago ordinances for that specific type of violation that the officer was saying that they were doing. And it said very clearly that it was that ordinance was found to be unconstitutional and it was removed from the books.
Well, there you
go.
So
I immediately, I start typing to Free Xenu Project in his channel, tell him this.
Yeah.
So he did. And then he came back and he said, yeah, you're right. I was wrong. So,
Fantastic.
So anything you want to know about a law going on somewhere. And if we have time, we're going to get to, in a little while, we're going to get to what's going on in California with the new trend to arrest protesters for disturbing religious services, because Carrie did a second video on that. So for now, though, let's get back to Florida's human trafficking laws and see what they tell you. I got to throw one plug in for my home state. Florida did something right when they wrote the human trafficking law.
Yes. And just FYI,
my attorney friend, Carrie.
FYI on that, I did also examine the federal laws on human trafficking as well as California's laws on human trafficking. And I pulled some stuff, but honestly, there really isn't a lot there. Florida's human trafficking criminal statute, is by far the toughest. It's the most developed. Yeah, they really did an excellent job, in my opinion. Florida got a win on this one, as far as I'm concerned. So
okay, do you want me to read this one, or you want to read it?
Sure, no, you go ahead.
Okay, and this is not the beginning of the statute. This is paragraph 3, so that's a couple of pages, couple of paragraphs, few paragraphs in. It says, any person who knowingly, that's key, or in reckless disregard of the facts, that's key, engages in human trafficking or attempts to engage in human trafficking or benefits financially by receiving anything of value from participation in a venture that has subjected a person to human trafficking. Then going on, for labor or services of any child younger than 18 years of age or an adult believed by the person to be a child younger than 18. So if they're a child or they look like a child, commits a felony of the first degree. Using coercion for labor or services of an adult commits a felony of the first degree. So they're covering children and they're covering adults here. Tell me about it, Carrie.
Okay, so in paragraph 3, I think the really important thing that stuck out to me, because yes, a lot of this is what we expect from a human trafficking criminal statute, but I loved the language in there about someone who benefits financially by receiving anything of value from participation in a venture. And you'll see later on in our definitions, venture is very, very broadly defined. There's no requirement that the association of people be organized for a business or anything like that. So it really could also apply to a church. And that could pull in a lot of potential criminals. I mean, think about what we've heard in terms of people who have received services from the Church of Scientology. If those services were part of human trafficking, then that person profited from human trafficking and they're guilty under this crime, under this criminal statute. But yeah, if you're under 18 or the person that is trafficking you thinks you're under 18, and if you're an adult, if you use coercion, and we'll look, there is a definition of coercion, and the idea of creating indebtedness. So that whole, freeloader debt thing could definitely come into play, that these people are under a level of coercion, and therefore them giving Scientology free labor is a product of human.
Yeah, total sense there. You ready to go to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for labor or services who does so by the transfer or transport of any child younger than 18 years of age or an adult believed to be by the person to be a child younger than 18 years of age from outside the state to within the state, bringing one in from outside in. And how often do we see that going on, especially with Central and South American countries and Eastern European, commits a felony of the first degree. For each instance of human trafficking of any individual under this subsection, a separate crime is committed and a separate punishment is authorized, 2 for the price of 1.
Yes, every instance is a crime. And as you know, Lauri, because you were a police officer, when somebody is convicted of multiple crimes, they can get a separate sentence for each one, and those can stack.
Exactly.
So this covers, bringing someone from California, someone from Kansas, someone from New York City. If you're bringing people into Florida for the purpose of human trafficking children, that is covered. So again, it's really casting a broad net to catch as many instances of this as possible.
Beautiful. And that is very important when it is a matter of somebody getting prison time and somebody getting a slap on the wrist and a little bit of probation, because the more that's stacked on them, the less likely they're going to walk on it.
Correct.
I got to have my notes up to know which slides you want. Okay, 4 through 7. Okay, any parent, legal guardian, or other person having custody or control of a minor who sells or otherwise transfers custody or control of such minor, or offers to sell or otherwise transfer custody of such minor with knowledge or in reckless disregard of the fact that as consequence of the sale or transfer, the minor will be subject to human trafficking, commits a life felony.
Yes.
And I'm going to let you explain life felony once you chat about this slide.
Yeah, this was the big one for me when I was looking through this statute, that I just went, oh my goodness, like we really need to get this out there. Because it's basically saying, look, if you're a parent, you have this special relationship with this child, that you are supposed to be protecting this child. You're supposed to be looking out for this child. And if you either know that they're going to be trafficked, and reckless disregard is, at least in Pennsylvania, it's kind of defined as like, you are making a conscious decision to ignore a substantial risk. Okay. So you don't necessarily have to know for sure that your child's being labor trafficked or some other type of trafficked. If there's enough evidence to show that you basically ignored that there was a risk of that happening and you did nothing, that's kind of where, a reckless disregard comes into play. So yeah, this is, and remember, it's casting a broad net. So if your parents in Oregon, in Portland, and they send you to flag in Clearwater for whatever, start your auditor training or just, to sign up for the Sea Org, and they either knew or they consciously ignored a substantial risk that something was going to happen to you, it's a life felony. And I want to make something really clear. I'm not advocating or pushing for adult child victims of trafficking in Scientology to turn their parents in. Like, it is not for me to say you need to call and turn your parent in. That's not my call, but it is a choice that those adult children have, and they need to know they have that choice. And so that's the purpose there.
Yeah, let me ask you about Scientology parents who are in full belief of the tech, are in full belief that Sea Org members are, the cream of the crop. They're the ones that are going to clear the planet, and you're doing something for your church by letting your child go sign up to be a Sea Org member, especially under 18. Is that going to be covered under this, or are they considered to be innocents because they don't know better?
Well, again, you have to have the evidence that it was knowingly or done in reckless disregard. So you have to have some evidence that either they knew, so maybe it happened to them. Maybe there's some evidence that the parent themselves had that experience. They, in their mind, might chalk it up to, that's my religious experience. But, the prosecutors, if it was me, I'd be like, no, that's evidence that you knew trafficking went on. But I didn't see anywhere in the statute, and I don't know Florida law well enough, but I'm going to venture to say that, my religion allows for human trafficking, so I'm innocent of crime, is not going to fly. Not in Florida. Florida has a little bit of a reputation. And at the beginning of the presentation, I covered the legislative intent. And I talked about how important legislative intent can be when courts are interpreting laws. They will look to the legislative intent and say, okay, what was the legislature trying to prohibit when they passed this criminal statute? What conduct were they trying to criminalize and curtail and stop? And does the defendant's conduct fall within it? So I didn't see anywhere in there that a legitimately held religious view would somehow be an excuse or defense to the crime, not from a legal standpoint.
Before we go on to life felony, I'm not sure what fat Grammy means here. Would that instance be violating fundamental public policy? Do you know what she's talking about? And if not, fat Grammy, if you could clarify, we'll bring it up and try to answer your question.
Yeah. And I wonder, because that's Mona, right? That's Mona who's doing all the work with the IRS and the LAPD, I think. So
you might be right.
I'm looking into that. And Mona, hit a girl up. I have to add my email to my channel. Like, you guys, I'm so not prepared to be a YouTuber because I don't even have an email attached to my channel, but I will put one in.
It's easy.
Okay. So it could be, if you're asking in terms of, fundamental public policy, to just off the top of my head, is modern human slavery. There is no public policy permitting modern human slavery. So if there is a religious practice, and this is part of what I think Scientology's fundamental problem is, their human trafficking, the way that it's all structured within their religion, all those policy letters, all those, executive orders, everything that LRH wrote and everything that came down from RTC since then, tends to show that their structure and function can't happen without a level of human trafficking. So to that extent, yeah, there's an argument there. If I'm understanding what she's asking and trying to provide an answer off the top of my head.
If we didn't answer that, Fat Grammy, come back at us and let us know. Okay, tell us about life felonies.
Okay, so life felonies are exactly what they sound like. They are punishable by life in prison. The other aspect to this is there is no statute of limitations for a parent or a guardian, anyone who fits 4A. There's no statute of limitations on this.
Wow.
On the other offenses, I think I do in the presentation, it's like 4 years from the time that the crime is finalized. So the crime is finalized when the last element of the offense takes place. And we can talk about course of conduct, but for this offense, there is no statute of limitations. Now, I will put an asterisk on this. This law was passed for the first time in 2004. So there could be an issue of pre-2004 conduct. When it happened, it wasn't criminalized.
Right.
But that is something I would say to anyone who's thinking that this may have happened to them and they want to report it. Let the prosecutors and law enforcement in Florida figure that out. That's a legal question for them to answer. And don't let it hinder you from making the report if you want to.
Okay. Gotcha. Question, Lauri. Can you ask your guest if the former children, Aaron, Liz, etc., F. Scientos, can file a group class action against the cult of Scientology? POS? What's POS? Pieces of...
Yeah, that's what I think of PO.
I am a teacher, not a lawyer. Love your channel. Thank you, Prayer Squad. Well, Carrie, what do you think?
Well, thank you, Prayer Squad. My husband's a teacher, so I appreciate what you're doing. And if you're like him, you are just trying to get through the next week or so.
Exactly.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. I am not a civil litigator. That's just not my area of expertise. Class action litigation is a very niche area of the law to practice. And remember, those, even if you have a class action lawsuit, you still have a statute of limitations. So whatever the claim is, just because it applies to a large number of people that makes up a class of plaintiffs, doesn't mean that you get to bypass a statute of limitations. So if things happen to them when they, 20 years ago, odds are the statute of limitations has passed.
Okay, and this is a follow-up to Fat Grammy's question. She means in regard to the 501c status. Can you strip away 501c for fundamental violations of public policy?
Yeah, and that is something I am very interested in. And I would love to connect with Fat Grammy and work on that with her, because I think the idea of stripping Scientology of their 501c3, we have to get into the nitty gritty. We have to get their approval letters from the IRS for each and every part of their organization and see why they were approved. And then we have to go and find the evidence that shows that they are not fulfilling the basis for which the IRS approved them. And we have to provide some actual evidence like affidavits and things like that. But I just, without specific evidence to it, if it's just anecdotal, if it's just third party, I think you're going to have time. You've got to bring direct evidence to the IRS.
Yes, Sandwich has added the Bob Jones University case held it violated public policy to discriminate based on race. That's the only case I know of that tested the public policy provision strength at SCOTUS. Okay. All right. On to number 7. The Criminal Justice Standards and Training Commission, I know them well.
I bet you do.
Shall establish standards for basic and advanced training programs for law enforcement officers in the subjects of investigating and preventing human trafficking crimes. Every basic skills course required for law enforcement officers to obtain initial certification must include training on human trafficking crime prevention and investigation. I will say on that topic, they really, when I went through the academy, really didn't do much at all on just regular human trafficking. They really focused on sex trafficking and how to recognize a potential victim, how to interview the victim, But for the type of human trafficking law violations we're talking about in regards to Scientology, there really wasn't training on that. It was more geared to sex trafficking. Any real property or personal property that was used, attempted to be used, or intended to be used in violation of this statute may be seized and shall be forfeited. Oh, there's my senior living community on Fort Harrison Drive or Boulevard.
I think
Right there.
that would be a lovely location, Lauri.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shall be forfeited as provided by the Florida Contraband Forfeiture Act. After satisfying any liens on the property, the remaining proceeds from the sale of the property seized under this section and owned by defendant convicted of violation of the subject must first be allocated to pay any order of restitution of human trafficking victim in the criminal case for which the owner was convicted. If there are multiple human trafficking victims in the criminal case, the remaining proceeds must be allocated equally among the victims to pay restitution. Talk to me about subsection 5, Carrie.
Well, I was really curious about, what you were saying about 5, because, and I'm glad to hear that the training when you went through, and I'm sure continuing on to present day, is talking about that, is talking to every Florida law enforcement officer who's coming through. And that it's not just how do you recognize signs, it's how do you talk to someone who has suffered this? Because I'll tell you, as a child abuse attorney, like, you can't just come in and be like, okay, tell me how your mom hit you. Like, you can't just do that. So I would like to hear more about the fact that Florida is incorporating labor trafficking. I had a case where I was appointing the guardian ad litem for the child, and labor trafficking her, had adopted her from a foreign country, and then would wake her up at 4 a.m. before school and make her do all these chores and like have these cameras on her. I had never heard of labor trafficking, and this was years ago, but I had never heard of it. And I'm kind of in the field, so I learned a lot from that case. So I don't know that the word is out, like you said. They seem to focus on the S part.
Right.
I would like to hear, and maybe people, viewers, residents of Florida can raise that in your local city council meetings.
Right.
Hey, I know you're supposed to provide these standards. I hear you're doing it for a particular type of trafficking. I'd like to make sure you're also doing it for labor trafficking, because I think there's a high risk of that happening in Florida as well. And not just for Scientology. I think anytime you have a vulnerable population, you're going to have that risk.
Well, you reminded me of an incident that it was a call I responded to ages ago. And it was a nice big house. A white lady and her daughter lived there. And the owner was a foster mom, and she had 4 black boys and 2 white boys. They all shared a room. It was a large room, no bunk beds or individual beds. They all had single beds, but they were kind of in rows, kind of like you would imagine a military bunker. I don't know how the
like a dorm style.
Yeah. And she was complaining to me. She called me to complain that the boys were not doing the chores that were outlined for them to do. And she brought me this incredibly detailed weekly schedule of which boy did what chore on what day. I mean, we're talking the floors were to be vacuumed and mopped every single day. And really extensive cleaning chores. And I asked her, I said, where's your daughter on this list? Her daughter was not included in the work schedule around the house, just the foster boys.
Yeah.
And I was infuriated because I felt like she just wanted slaves at her house.
Yeah.
So I contacted the bureau that deals with foster parents, and I raised my concerns to them.
Good.
And she, about 2 months later, she was no longer a foster parent.
There you go.
So I had totally forgotten about that until you mentioned that one child. And
Yeah.
the thought that people might be fostering only for the sake of the monthly paycheck and
Mhm.
free labor is really kind of disgusting.
It is, and let me just say, and I'm so thankful. I'm sure those boys are so thankful, Lauri, that you spoke up and did that, and that was the right thing to do. My experience with foster parents, 9 times out of 10, they are good people, but there is an element of foster parents who are in it for a paycheck. On the case that I just mentioned, the adoption hadn't been through any local agency. It had been through an adoption agency located in Montana.
Mm.
And the girl was adopted from a South American country and spoke no English,
Oh, man.
and ended up in Pennsylvania. So
Wow.
there is that element out there. But yeah, labor trafficking was something I didn't know about. And you kind of stumbled into it, and you're just, your gut instinct kind of told you that, hey, something's wrong here. So I hope that Florida, the basic and advanced training programs that they're supposed to have evolved along with our knowledge of how trafficking happens. It's not just for the S. It's for many things.
Right, right. And now that this is on the books, you said it's 2004. That's relatively new for me because let me see, I retired in 2012. So that was just a few years before I retired. So I had no training on this statute. It was all based on the other topic that I mentioned. Okay. Did you want to talk about the seizing property at all?
Well, I threw that in there for fun because how lovely would it be?
Yeah.
Especially, of course, we all think of Serge Delmar and his story because he's always talked about what happened to him at the Fort Harrison. And this statute, now it's discretionary. They don't have to file to seize it. But if they do, then it's going to be forfeited under the law, which means sold.
Right. This is much like the tag on for drug offense violations. Like people who are convicted of trafficking in drugs, their vehicles and any property used in the connection of the commission of that crime are subject to being confiscated. And many law enforcement agencies incorporate vehicles that were confiscated based on those statutes into their vehicle force.
They hand them out to the drug task force people because they're the undercover cars. They look like drug dealer cars, so they can blend in.
Yeah.
So I just threw this in there to emphasize the point that, hey, if we pursue this, we go down this road and we have some success.
There you go.
Maybe the city of Clearwater is going to end up owning the Fort Harrison someday. Wouldn't that be interesting?
I dream of that being like one would be like 55 plus apartments, and the other would be like assisted living and nursing facilities.
Yeah.
Maybe to help senior Scientology Sea Org members who have nothing. Like the lady I spoke to in Austin who told me she had nothing set aside for her retirement. And she was probably mid-70s. And it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And when I gave her the number for the SPTV Foundation, she parroted back the number to me.
She was memorizing it. That's amazing, Lauri. That's like, that must have just made you, like, the whole trip was worth it just for that one conversation, right?
Yeah, I've thought so much about her since coming home. And I'm kind of like you in that my heart is with the children and with the elderly. I've always been kind of a fighter for the underdog, those that didn't have a fair fight in a situation, couldn't defend themselves.
Yeah.
Have you brought this up yet? Question: how can state human trafficking and child SA statutes be amended to further provide protections? Is there something states can do to be proactive? Do you have anything to say on that?
Well, there certainly is stuff that states can do to be proactive, just kind of like what we were discussing with the making sure that the training that's mandated is evolving to encompass all types of human trafficking, not just the most commonly known about. But yeah, I mean, if you're, and I think I said this in the video, like go to your state legislature and see if you have a statute. And if you don't, write to your state representative or your state senator and send them a copy of Florida statute and say, why don't we have this? Like, we need to be
Great
doing
idea.
it.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. And then, a lot, since I was a prosecutor for 8 years, there is something called prosecutorial discretion. I'm sure, Lauri, you're familiar with it.
Right.
Where a county district attorney can make a decision, and even a state attorney general's office can make a decision. Well, technically, could we charge? Yes, but are we going to? No.
Right.
Right. And one thing that reporting as many instances of this to law enforcement that we will do is discourage any exercise of discretion away from, we're just going to let it go. We don't want to mess with Scientology. We don't want to mess with the whole, it's their religion thing. If they have 50, if they have 100 calls of, hey, this happened to me in your state, they will be less likely to excuse it or say this is too much trouble.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent. And I think you've got a couple of folks in chat who want to be able to reach out to you in email. So
okay.
You might need to make a specific email for your channel. Do you want to share it?
And I just haven't added it. It's carriejnpa@gmail.
MPA, Mama Papa Alpha?
Carrie J in, like I'm in Pennsylvania. Carrie J.
Oh, okay. And what was the at?
Gmail? Yeah.
And we will make sure she gets it added to her.
Yeah, I gotta do that.
Her channel.
You should have seen me when I was trying to link my StreamYard with my YouTube, and I'm swearing up a storm at my computer at like 1:30 in the afternoon. Like, why won't you work? Well,
you have to understand, on Monday, Carrie had 16 subs, and she couldn't have gone live on her channel. And she's streaming this now live on her channel because you guys answered the call and went and subbed her. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Is it, no, when you say in, is it IN?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did that wrong. I thought it was just the initials.
Nope, so, Carrie J NPA.
Carrie J.
Yeah.
N. Thank you for clarifying that, Fat Grammy. I did that wrong at gmail.com.
I'm going to Xenu Marlene real quick.
Xenu Marlene. Fireball. Hang on. I've got a cap on mine. Cheers.
Cheers. Yum.
Don't do the other Xenu Marlene.
I don't do that type of Xenu Marlene. I leave that for Cheryl.
Although I did on the segment of the chat-a-thon that I was on, because everybody else was. So I'm like, where's mine? Okay.
I mean, medical Xenu is legal in Pennsylvania now.
Medical Xenu is allowed in Florida as well. We're not doing anything illegal.
Nope.
Lydia, thanks for being here. I know you're doing double duty. Appreciate you so much. Lydia is my cabin mate on the SPTV cruise in September.
Oh, I wish I could go on that. Yeah.
And guess who I get to meet in Scotland, where she lives, when I'm there at the end of June? Her, Miss Lydia.
Lydia lives in Scotland. Oh,
she does, as a matter of fact. Okay, let's talk about these definitions. When we were reading the statute, we came across this one, coercion. Why don't you read that one?
Yeah, so coercion, using or threatening to use physical force, restraining, isolating, threatening to do those things, or confining a person without authority against their will. And here, look at number 3. Using lending or other credit methods to establish a debt. And then it kind of gets a little bit technical at the end of that, basically.
It's like an ex-Scientologist wrote this, honestly.
Basically, it's kind of like, okay, if they're going to do labor for you and you're not applying it to the debt, then you have to limit the scope and nature of their labor. So you can't just have this kind of, you're going to do all this labor for me and I'm not going to apply it to your debt. The whole, passport visa thing, causing or threatening to cause financial harm, such as we're going to sue you for $150,000 and take everything that you don't already own.
Right.
And then luring and enticing a person by fraud or deceit. That's the old bait and switch, right? Go to Clearwater, start doing this stuff, and this is what we're going to do for you. And then suddenly you're washing dishes in the Fort Harrison.
You're in lower conditions, and yeah.
So
Beautiful. I really do love the support you guys are giving this topic, because it can be heady, and it's a serious one. So let's talk about financial harm, human trafficking, labor services, and venture.
Yeah. So financial harm, extortion, extension of credit.
That was my dog dropping her bone on the
okay. I was like,
tile.
did I do that? Did I do
No,
that?
it's blue.
Or employment contracts that violate the statute of frauds. And I admit in the video, statute of frauds was covered in law school, but it's been over 20 years. I'd have to go back and double check what that is. But yeah, that can be, it might be that it's financial harm, these billion-year contracts, or even the staff contracts. Like Nora did a really great video about the staff contracts that are being done now. So I want to follow up and look at that. Human trafficking. Here's our black and white definition.
Yep.
And I love that includes the word recruiting, because that's what we hear all the time, right? These recruiters are out there trying to get people, especially children, into the Sea Org. That type of behavior directly falls into this. If you're doing it for the purpose of exploiting that person. So, I'm going to recruit you into the Sea Org. You're going to be this wonderful being, but then I'm going to work you for 16 hours a day and not send you to school. So
and pay you almost nothing.
Pay you nothing. Labor is just what it is. Anything that we as a society attach value to in terms of work. So anything you'd pay for on the outside, if you're doing it in Scientology, that's labor. Services is what it is. And then venture really got me, because remember at the beginning we talked about someone who's profiting from a venture that engages in human trafficking. Here's what a venture is. There's no requirement that the venture be organized or set up as a for-profit or a business organization. It's just two people. Like you and I are in a venture right now. We are two people associated in fact, period. So
it's very, very broad.
Very broad, and I love it. I love it because it can cover a church.
Yeah. Okay, so now we go to, are we already at 13? Well, let's do that, and then we could talk about the California goings on.
Yeah, so this is the conclusion. I want to encourage people to speak up. If you witnessed this, if this happened to you when you were a child or even as an adult, the more reports we get in, the better. Like I was talking about prosecutorial discretion, it makes it harder and harder and harder for law enforcement to look the other way and say, well, this is a religion, so we don't want to touch it. The more reports they get about what is going on. So those are the numbers, 855 FLA SAFE, and the child abuse hotline. If you're aware of a child who's currently being harmed, please call that number, 800-962-2873.
Yeah, it's easy to brush a case off your desk. But if you're getting stacks and stacks of cases with the same complaints about the same organization, they're going to start to look into it. They're going to start to open their eyes and see what's going on.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
Yeah. Okay, so now I need to find, where did I put the next group of slides? Hello, slides.
While you're looking, I'll just go ahead and say to everybody, I know in my videos, as an attorney, I'm speaking very carefully. So I get that the subject matter, like Lauri said, is kind of, up there, and I'm speaking in a very careful, measured tone of voice. It's not the most engaging. material to cover. It's not going to lend itself to kind of like this really interesting YouTube video. So I really appreciate having a chance to kind of, in a more informal setting, have that more engaging conversation with you, Lauri. So thank you.
And we won't be sharing those slides because I don't know if you ever got the request to give me permission, or I didn't receive it, so I don't have them.
I don't think I did get it.
But we can definitely talk about what's going on. So we've seen 2 arrests in California. 2, right?
Yeah, J and DOA.
For the complaint of disturbing a religious service.
Correct.
And Carrie did a second video. Just give us, because we're 45 minutes into this already. Just give us an overview of what you found out when you researched California's statute on that.
So, I mean, I think it's pretty easy. You just Google California Penal Code 302. You're going to find that definition. There were 2 chinks in the armor that I saw. One was unnecessary noise. So the adjective of unnecessary to me stood out, because remember, all of those words have to have meaning. The court is going to say each and every word the legislature puts in a statute has meaning. So they're not going to just be like, well, okay, we don't care about the unnecessary part. It can't just be noise. It has to be unnecessary. And if it's First Amendment exercise of your right to protest, that may take it out of the unnecessary noise category. But then the whole idea of, the noise traveling and just into a building and disrupting it. When you're looking at a building like Big Blue or Celebrity Center that's set back, it's this historic building. It was built with concrete. Anyone is going to be thinking to themselves, how did that sound get into that building? And then through whatever interior walls are in there. The idea to me of being able to use the criminal discovery process to turn the tables on Scientology was just too much of a wonderful opportunity to pass up. I just really wanted to raise that. I did see DOA's lives yesterday where he went to court. Turns out they didn't even file the charges. I don't know if Jay's was supposed to be today. I hadn't heard about it yet. But, to anyone in California who's facing this as a potential, charge, like if Scientology is going to try to use the criminal justice system to silence you, flip it on them. Flip that script and say, all right, you want to charge me with this? Well, fine. Well, guess what? I get to do discovery. I have a right to develop evidence that proves that I am not guilty of this offense, including testing whether that sound actually can penetrate into your building. So I'm going to do that.
Okay. Let me time out just a second so I can answer this question from Selma. Last name, but it's complicated. Is there a statute of limitations on these crimes? From what Carrie dug in and found out, the one that had no statute of limitations, correct me if I'm wrong, was the subsection that dealt with parents and guardians. Correct. The others did have. Correct. Do you remember what that
it was the general statute of limitations for F1s in Florida, which
federal. Okay, gotcha.
Felony one.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Which is 4 years from the completion date of the crime. So from 4 years from the very last moment that it happened. Now, if you were a minor, there may be, because of some of the things that they've done to modify statute of limitations for offenses that happen to minors, it may be 4 years from when you turn 18. I'm not sure, but yeah, generally it's 4 years.
Okay. And Stinky Cat is recommending one of your videos highly. So there you go.
Stinky Cat.
There you go. Okay. So how do we help the California protesters fight? I mean, at this point, do they just have to go through the system and fight off these charges? Do you recommend that they have a discussion with law enforcement when they show up? Do you have any recommendations for them for how they can respond on the street now, based on what you found out?
No, if it were anywhere other than LAPD, I'd probably say, yeah, have a discussion with law enforcement, but don't bother having a discussion with LAPD. It's not going to serve you well.
So corrupt.
The criminal defense side of me, which I've done, is like, no, don't ever talk to them, because everything you say is going to end up in a report, and if you do get arrested, it'll be used against you. But I don't think the average police officer, and Lauri, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is going to want to get into the middle of saying.
I was never just average.
True.
Kidding.
True. But I'm sure you knew a few average ones, just a few. But as soon as you throw the whole religion aspect into it, I think they're probably going to be like, oh, that call is above my pay grade. Kind of kick the can down the road a little bit. The battle for that, I don't think you're going to be able to fight it on the street at the scene. If they're going to arrest you for it, they're just going to arrest you for it. I think DOA made a good decision to not sign the citation and make the LAPD actually physically take him in, because it proves that they are part of it. They're
exactly. Uh-oh, I lost you. Is she frozen for everybody, y'all, or is she just frozen for me? Or am I frozen and I'm in an alternate reality? Which is it? I don't know if she's frozen or I'm frozen. She's frozen. Carrie, you're frozen. You blinked out on me a little bit earlier too, just for a couple seconds, but I didn't say anything. Uh-oh. Did I lose my attorney friend, Carrie? I started a question. While we're waiting to see if she can come back, let me remove her for now. Wait a minute. She came back. Yay. So Kelly, as far as I know, she wasn't on any other live streams like this, but she did come out to Clearwater and protest with me, 3 months ago?
Yeah, it was early April.
April. So I don't know if you saw her there or not, but as far as I know, this is her first time doing a studio live.
And I was kind of nervous, Lauri, because I don't know if you guys realize, like, to us SPTV just viewers, like, you guys out there doing it are like, the big deal. So it was kind of like back in middle school, I'm like, can I protest with you?
Hanging out with the high schoolers. But you did an amazing job. You're a natural. So, I mean, if you ever found a place where you could go protest, man, do it, because you'd be a natural and you'd gain subs super fast.
Well,
everybody was telling me you were frozen. So yeah. I'm glad you came back.
I'm back.
Dun dun dun.
You can't get rid of me. I'm a lawyer. I'm going to keep showing up even if you don't want me.
They know how to make you be in their face. Do you have anything else you want to add? You want to just chit chat for a while?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you have so much to do. You're getting ready for your big trips.
Oh, y'all. My daughter and I are going to hike Olympic National Park next week. And we had all these things. It's a huge park all over the, Western Washington. And got to do the Twilight stuff for me. I'm a twihard. And I'm like, how in the world am I going to figure out which to go where? I found this app where I could pinpoint each thing in and make a route. And it's like, it makes me feel so much more confident now. But we got a lot of hiking to do. I got some new hiking shoes today because the old ones were losing their cleats. I got some fleece lined, water resistant leggings because it's going to be cold. So I think we might be getting close to ready. It's been a nerve-wracking week trying to figure out how to make this thing work. I'm actually the whole purpose of the trip is to go to Vancouver and look at some tiny homes by a particular tiny home manufacturer there.
I love tiny homes.
I'm gonna sell this place and I'm gonna buy a tiny house and some acres. So tiny house, big land. That's the
like
dream.
in the Tampa area, or are you going to relocate?
No, I actually wanted to go to the mountains of North Georgia, but
Ooh.
my oldest, who lives in Clearwater, who recently got engaged, said, I would have thought you'd want to be closer to your grandchildren. I'm like, am I ever going to have any? So my plan B, because I love Disney World and I love Universal, my plan B was to go closer to my theme parks so I could get there in like maybe less than a half an hour, and it's not so traumatic driving I-4 back and forth from Tampa to Orlando. So that's what I'm looking at now. And if something happens with them where they were to leave the state, then I'm free to go to Georgia.
Yeah.
So right now, I have no idea where I'm going to be living in a few months. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put this guy on the market when I come back from Scotland and I'm home for a month or two.
Scotland,
eh? I wish I could do it like Nora.
Oh, she's
Nora kind of does the Nora version of Mike Myers doing the Scottish accent.
Yeah.
But then she also had that person who were they a course manager or course supervisor? I don't remember, who was Scottish, and she imitates that person's accent a lot, and it's funny as all. But I have been told, don't do a Scottish accent when you're in Scotland.
No, I don't think that. I don't think they like it.
Sally's in Georgia. Kelly, BC. Gee, I wonder where you are. Kelly, you going to be in Delta on Monday afternoon by chance? Come by and say hi. Question. Is the backlog on court cases as bad as they appear in the news or TV? Yes.
It can be. It can be. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I know of any state attorney, district attorney, however they call themselves in that area, who would not say the backlog is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anytime you're a trial attorney, it's just like what fire is in front of you right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it's
Lydia, do not, I repeat, do not do that in Scotland.
They might chuck you over the wall, you know.
I might find myself living with the little people.
You might, or swimming home, one of the two. Are you going to stream from there and from Scotland, like on your Pacific Northwest tour and from Scotland? I'd love to see that.
Anticipate streaming. I have another channel, Lauri Wanders.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
That's centered on like travel, tiny house searching, tiny house living. So it's kind of geared for that. And I don't know I probably won't live stream because I think it would be too hectic and I don't know what coverage would be like there. But I'm definitely going to be recording and putting together some videos to put on that channel. As a matter of fact,
let me see if I can.
I just got this guy this week. But I don't know if I can learn how to fly him in time to use him.
Ooh.
There.
All right, I found travel tips by Lauri. Let me see.
At Lauri Wanders is the handle.
Oh, Lauri Wanders. I'm sorry.
And make sure you spell Lauri right.
Lauri.
Okay, I'll post other channel. Thank you, Sally. Actually, yeah, I'll just do it this way. Lauri.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll do the whole thing. YouTube. I've got like 100, 120 subs last I looked.
Yeah, this can't be you.
At Lauri Wanders.com. Oh, see, Lydia always beats me. She always beats me. Okay.
Well, I will have to sub to that one too.
Yeah, and sandwiches, it doesn't help when people start talking about defunding, because all that does is takes away monies for training, takes away monies for special units, and takes boots off the ground. So yeah.
And I understand why people say that. I mean, there's some real shifts that need to happen. especially with mental health, the intersection of mental health and criminal justice. That's just, we're not doing it right. That's just the truth. But yeah, I mean, public interest lawyers, public defenders offices. I was never a PD, but I kind of am one now. And yeah, I'm making a fraction of what my colleagues make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the bad thing about these kind of fields, because if you go where the need is, that's not where the money is. That's with medicine too.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors who do clinics in underprivileged areas.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what they're doing is basically free, or they're getting paid by the government. So it's, it says a lot about you as a person that you've gone with your heart. I would love for you to make more money.
I would love to too. I think my husband would like that. But I mean, I'm fortunate that, I have the support of my husband, my family. And if we have a plumbing problem and the shower is leaking, I can lean on for support. But yeah, you don't do this kind of work because it's glamorous. We don't get our names in the paper when we are able to get a child away from a dangerous environment,
Should.
Nobody
That's
really
heroic.
Yeah. So, but I really appreciate, I just kind of found SPTV around the first of the year and just kind of really fell into it, and then had no intention of protesting. Like, I don't even put pictures of myself on my Instagram. It's all my dog, So the idea of coming on the internet and doing this stuff, but you were such a good teacher that day, and you were so welcoming and friendly, and I really appreciated that. So
I really enjoyed your company.
Yeah, I did too.
You're welcome to join me anytime. And Lydia is the best mod. Best mod. As a matter of fact, she's modding 2 channels right now, 2.
Lydia Von Stretchclaw is a pretty awesome name.
She's queen. She's absolute queen. Yeah. So you're going to be back in Florida when I'm in Scotland? Is that what
think so. I think I'm going to miss you, but I'm going to reach out to Cheryl and Sarasota Jerry. I met him at the meet and greet.
And Dusty Soda, now Dispenser, new name. And I just wanted to bring this up real quickly because he messaged me about coming on to a live he's doing tonight at midnight. And I said, darling, if all is right with the world, I'll be asleep.
Yeah.
So good luck. But anyway, midnight Eastern time, if any of you guys are up, he's on a drive to try to get 500 subs.
Nice.
So if we could help with that, that would be fantastic.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When are we going to see your Aaronite alter ego? We've seen
I've thought
a lot. I want to see yours.
I've thought that I maybe should do something.
I think you should. I'd love to see what you come up with. I think you'd look wonderful in a hat.
I don't know, but Sherry, where does that come from? I was going to say Cheryl and then Carrie. So that's where it came from. Cheryl's is so funny and Jerry's is so funny. I just don't, I can't compete. I cannot compete. I throw in the towel. I can't compete.
I think once you get going, you're going to find some inspiration.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. Well, everybody, I hope you got some good information. I hope that we made a boring, dry subject a little bit more interesting to take in. And I hope that perhaps I might be able to encourage my attorney friend, Carrie, to do more lives like this one with me.
I'll think about it.
And I'm also encouraging her to actually put her face on the videos that she puts up.
Listen, it was a choice. Do I get the video done and then go to court, or do I do my hair and makeup and not get the video done? So
see, look this. You can, your camera will do it for you. It's got a make me pretty. It makes you look like you have makeup on when you don't. I haven't worn makeup in about 15 years.
I'm sure it would add to the engagement factor. So I'm sure I'll get better at this, but I will consult my orb and I will chant my mantras. And
Pay your dues to Erontology. Got to tithe. Got to
practice
tithe.
my Erontology and use my tech. Because
use your tech to tithe to Erontology.
My Erontology tech solves everything. I've heard it solves every problem in the world. So
yes.
That's what I've heard.
Okay. Do we have any, before we go, do we have any questions that we haven't covered? Oh, Carrie, thank you.
Oh, good.
We appreciate you. Yes, and wow, yes, and DOA. Did something happen? Just a tish. I don't know what that means. Oh, wrong thing. It moved as I went to click it. I don't know what that means. You shared it with Jay. I hope you're talking about Carrie's video. Yeah, haven't I seen you mod on somebody's channel, Jen? You are very welcome, Kelly. I'm sorry I can't meet you in Vancouver. Yeah, Cheryl is hilarious. She's a very unique individual. I got to share 4 days with her in Austin.
Yeah. Oh, I was so jealous that you got to go to Austin. What an awesome city is that?
Yeah. You know what? Sorry, Austin, wasn't impressed.
Really?
However, I will say we stayed in downtown and then went the short distance to the org. And we kind of stayed in that general area. So we didn't get really outside of downtown. So I can't really give Austin a fair evaluation.
Well, what didn't you like in the area?
It was just, the traffic was insane. To get anywhere, the traffic was insane. There is a question from Fat Grammy. Are you able to practice in another state or just PA?
Just PA, but I'm admitted in the federal courts, because to be admitted in the federal court practice, you just have to be admitted in one of the states.
Gotcha.
So if the question, if you're looking for help on the IRS, please, hit me up, and I'll do what I can. I'd love to search and get some information for you, help you out.
Kelly, no, probably not. I usually go Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I know I've only been once since I got back from Austin because my schedule has been so whack, and putting this trip together, losing my mind over a couple of transportation issues in Scotland, of which one Lydia is taking care of for me, or working on, or partially taken care of. And the other one is, I thought on the day that we were going to go to Culloden, it's a Scottish tour, and they didn't put Culloden on the Scottish tour. I don't know how that happens. We have to stop in Inverness, which is 10 minutes or so away from Culloden. It's really close.
Are you doing this because of Outlander? Are you an Outlander fan? I
am an Outlander fan, but I've been studying Scottish history and culture and since I just identify because I have so much Scottish in my DNA. I've got Scottish ancestors. I'm descended from at least the Hamiltons that I know of. Not Alexander, I think, because he was born in Puerto Rico. I don't know where his daddy was born. Anyway, so it turns out where we're going to be staying on our Culloden day is an hour and 10 minutes away. And I can't get the car hire place to return my email or my call. So we might be, I might have to write off Culloden on this tour. There was actually an excursion that day that I really, really wanted to go to. It was a particular castle that I really want to see, and then the Isle of Skye. So I might just suggest we do that, and I can go to Culloden on a genealogy research trip one day. So I probably won't get out there since it's the weekend. And I have to pack, I have to do laundry. I feel like and I still have to find a couple of hotels for next week. I normally, when I travel, it's by the seat of my pants. I just drive and get there when I get there and do what I do. But there's so much we really want to see, and it's such a huge park that I'm trying to make the most use of our time and see as much as we can. And then today my daughter texts me and she says, I wondered how close we could get to Mount Olympus. Or is it Mount Olympia? I think it's Mount Olympus, the big one that's in Olympic National Park. I said, well, I don't know, but if we do that, you're probably going to have to write off having a revisit to Mount Rainier because that's going to take some time to get all the way down there. Anyway, so to answer your question, I would very confidently say not likely.
That would be so sad to miss Culloden, though. I mean, such
Yeah,
a
and
significant place.
Lydia says there's not much at Culloden. It's just the history.
I know.
And it probably would be better to save it for a research trip because I think if I were to be able to tie my ancestry, my Scottish ancestry, to the Battle of Culloden, either, on the English side or the Jacobites, I think it would be a lot more meaningful.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
I'm just tired of stressing over trips, honestly. I just want to go and enjoy them, like I normally do. Yeah.
All right. Well, we will let you get back to planning because obviously you have, I know.
I love Jamie Fraser's booty.
I love everything about Jamie Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser.
Wow. You've even got all the names memorized in order.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, my sister-in-law was a huge Outlander fan before, I think it was before, just the books before the show started. And she kept trying to get me to read it. And I think I tried maybe 3 times.
Really?
I got bored because it does take a while to really get going.
Yeah.
And I put it aside, and finally, at her insisting, I said, okay, I'm going to at least read 2 chapters past the place I always stop.
Okay.
And there was no stopping.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I've got all the novellas as well as all the books. Can't wait for the next one. I'm so sad that the next season is the last one. They are going to do a series that centers on Janie's parents' relationship.
Ooh. Oh, I love that idea.
No, Jamie and Claire,
I know, but
love.
they're both those actors are doing amazing now. So it's hard. But well, I'm a historical fiction fan. Like Bernard Cornwell is just my absolute fave.
Yeah.
So just and this one, my friend was like, "Oh, you got to read it." I was like, "Yeah." And then I started to read it. I was like, "Oh, this is amazing!" And then the show
had to put it down time, huh? You just
I'm one of those
from the
like
start.
You stay up all night reading, right?
Yeah.
You just can't stop. So now I stay up all night watching SPTV. So
there you go. And there's so much now that you just can't catch it all.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see something. Oh, come on. That's not what I wanted to go to. Okay. Do we do like a room raid?
Is anyone live?
Cultology Twins, Danny's Impact, Growing Up in Scientology is still live. Wow.
Aaron's got a lot to say.
Becky F. Given, Saul Goodman, Solomon Streets. Oh, he took on Streets. And Windy City, Fate and Watch. Do y'all want to do a room raid? Or I'm going to have to go back to Aaron's and mod for the last part of it. So, Aaron doesn't need a room raid of 20 people.
Yeah.
Aaron has a lot to say, huh?
Yes, Aaron has a lot to say.
We could do a room raid for Growing Up in Scientology as a, hey, look at me.
Hey, I'm your mod, and I just did
excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Eddie. She's outside my door crying. She's like,
did you hear my dog barking? Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a vote for Wendy. I got 3 votes for Wendy, 1 for Saul. I guess we're going to Wendy.
All right, let's do it.
We're not there yet, Kelly. Just copy that. All right. I don't know how to divert this stream over there. I think there's some way to do it, but what I will do is post his link, and
Okay.
y'all just go over there and say, "Hey, flying over from Lauri Plays, saying hi."
Well, thank
Good
you,
room.
Lauri, so much for having me on and
Thank you for
encouraging me
joining
for
me.
subs and all of that. I really appreciate it. So
We
thank
have
you.
been talking about doing this for a couple of months,
We
probably.
have
My
been.
attorney friend Carrie.
We both have some kind of busy lives a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we got it done though. Hopefully we'll do some more.
Yeah, I don't see anything here in StreamYard that tells me how to do that. But there's the link. Y'all jump in and say, coming over from Lauri Plays. Keep on fighting the good fight, friend. And we'll see you over there and at Aaron's, because I'll be in both. Carrie, thanks so much.
Thank
We'll
you,
do
Lauri.
it again. We'll come up with
Bye,
a topic and
everyone.
we'll do it again. Thanks, everyone. Go see Windy City. Bye, y'all.
Bye.